Chosen one, the gavel has fallen. I repeat, the gavel has fallen. This is not random. This is not background noise in your day. If you are hearing these words right now, heaven itself has interrupted your timeline. The Spirit has arrested your attention because a long-standing legal battle in the unseen realm has just come to an end, and you are standing at the edge of a supernatural turning point. Chosen one, for the last few years, you have felt like you were living in a spiritual courtroom. Every time you tried to build something, a sudden attack knocked it down. Every step forward was met with resistance. You cried out to God, asking, Lord, how long must I wait for my breakthrough? How long must I endure this pressure without seeing the promise you were innocent, yet stuck in legal limbo, watching your energy, your hope, and even your finances drain away? But today, the court is adjourned. Anointed one. This is not a lesson or a method to get rich. This is a wealth transfer. This is a divine settlement being released. Scripture reminds us in Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3 that the vision waits for its appointed time, but it will surely come and it will not delay. That time is now. Stay with me until the very end. This is a spiritual activation. Comment 777, and the city you are watching from as a sign among the chosen, so the flow of kingdom wealth can locate you. Listen all the way through, because this is how the transfer completes. Chosen one, hear this with your spirit fully awake. This settlement check is not just for what you need today, not just for the bills in front of you or the pressure you woke up carrying this morning. This is a lump sum payment for entire seasons of loss, delay, misunderstanding, and warfare that never showed up on a sum or a bank statement, but drained you all the same. I've learned in my own walk that heaven never ignores what hell tries to hide. What looked like random hardship, repeated setbacks, and unexplained resistance was actually evidence being collected. And right now, God is not asking how strong you are. He is reviewing the record. This is not charity. This is settlement. This is heaven saying, we have seen enough. Anointed one, you need to understand what a real settlement covers. In the natural world, when a court rules in your favor, it doesn't just return what was taken, it compensates you for what it cost you to endure the process. And God is looking at your life with that same clarity. He saw the nights you cried yourself to sleep when nobody checked on you. He saw the relationships that collapsed without explanation. He saw the anxiety that tried to sit on your chest and convince you that you were behind, forgotten, or failing. I know that place personally. There were seasons when I did everything right and still lost ground, seasons where obedience felt expensive and silence felt like abandonment. But what I didn't know then is that the enemy was not just attacking me, he was running up a bill. Chosen one, every tear you cried was recorded, every sleepless night was logged, every opportunity delayed, every dollar diverted, every door slammed in your face was tracked. The enemy thought he was wearing you down, but he was actually building a case against himself. That's why this moment feels different. That's why something in your spirit knows this is not another motivational word. This is the part the enemy never wants you to understand. God's settlement does not come with simple interest. It comes with compound spiritual interest. What was stolen years ago has been accruing value in the courts of heaven, and now the judge is calling the debt due. Let me say this slowly, because this is where hope becomes dangerous to darkness. When the enemy stole from you 5 years ago, he didn't just steal a seed. He stole the harvest that seed was meant to produce. When an opportunity was taken from you, it wasn't just the job. It was the promotions you never got to apply for, the connections you never got to make, the income that would have compounded year after year. The enemy thinks he only owes you for the seed, but heaven calculates the entire forest. God is not just restoring what you lost. He is restoring what you would have become if the attack never happened. Chosen one. This is why the door opening in front of you feels oversized. This is why the blessing coming doesn't match the size of what you remember losing. God is calculating lost potential. He is adding missed versions of you, delayed growth, postponed momentum, and unrealized favor to the total. I remember asking God why certain opportunities came back around bigger than before, why doors reopened with more authority, more access, more provision. And the answer was simple. It wasn't a second chance. It was back pay. It was interest. It was heaven saying, we did not forget what it cost you to wait. This settlement even includes the interest on your tears. Scripture tells us that God keeps your tears in a bottle, not because he is sentimental, but because he is precise. Tears are currency in the kingdom. Pain that was endured without bitterness carries value. Faith that survived confusion carries weight. And today, heaven is cashing that out. After you have suffered for a while, God settles you, not agitates you, not tests you again. He settles you. That word settle means to bring you into a place where striving stops and provision begins, where survival mode shuts down and establishment takes over. But chosen one, there is a divine mechanic you must understand. A settlement check has to be endorsed. In the natural, you can receive a check with your name on it, but if you leave it untouched, it never changes your life. I've watched people stay stuck, not because God didn't release provision, but because they were still emotionally living in the trial. They learned how to fight, but they never learned how to receive. They were so familiar with pressure that peace felt foreign. If that resonates, you're not alone. I had to unlearn the habit of bracing for impact when God was trying to hand me rest. This is why today matters. This is why I'm asking you to stay with me all the way through this message. This is not teaching you how to make money. This is a transfer. This is about aligning your posture so the settlement can be fully received. Stop rehearsing the battle. Start agreeing with the verdict. When heaven rules in your favor, complaining about the case keeps you in the courtroom. Gratitude moves you into the counting room. For some of you, this settlement will show up financially. Funds that were delayed will suddenly release. Inheritances back, pay approvals, unexpected provision will surface without strain. For others, it will be relational. Homes will settle. Chaos will lose its voice. Peace will rest over your house in a way you cannot manufacture. For others, it will be physical. Conditions that lingered without explanation will resolve, and even professionals will struggle to explain the shift. God settles what he finishes, and there is a public clause to this settlement. God prepares tables in the presence of enemies, not to embarrass them, but to validate his word. People who misunderstood your quiet season will witness your establishment. This is not ego, this is evidence. That's why the pressure intensified recently. The enemy sensed the payout coming and tried to exhaust you before the release. But you held on. You're still here, and that tells me everything I need to know about what you're about to receive. So, chosen one, take this moment seriously. Stay with this word until the end. Comment 727 and the city you're watching from, not as superstition, but as alignment, as clarity, as a signal that the settlement has an address. What heaven releases must land somewhere, and we are not rushing this. We are allowing the full transfer to complete. Stay with me in this moment, because what happens next is where many people unknowingly interrupt their own breakthrough. A settlement is not only about what is released from heaven, it is about how you receive it on earth. There is a posture shift that must occur. I've seen this repeatedly in my own life and in the lives of people I've walked with closely. The moment the pressure lifts, the mind often tries to go back to familiar patterns, worry, overthinking, self-protection. But heaven does not release settlement to be managed by fear. It is released to be stewarded by trust. Right now, the atmosphere around you is changing, and that change requires awareness. When a real settlement is finalized, the first sign is not noise, it is silence. A strange, unfamiliar quiet settles in your spirit. The internal chatter that kept you awake at night begins to lose its grip. The urgency that once drove you starts to dissolve. You may notice you are no longer reacting the same way to things that used to provoke anxiety. That is not numbness, that is resolution. The stress you carried was the stress of the battle, not the stress of your destiny. And now that the case is closed, the body, the mind, and the spirit are being recalibrated to a new normal. Chosen one. I need you to hear this clearly. Silence does not mean nothing is happening. Silence is often the sound of things being finalized behind the scenes. In the natural world, after a legal decision is made, paperwork must be processed, systems must update, accounts must be adjusted. That does not happen in the courtroom. It happens afterward quietly. In the same way, heaven has ruled, and now the natural realm is catching up. This is why you must resist the temptation to rush ahead or force outcomes. What belongs to you is already moving. Watch carefully in the coming days. Pay attention to subtle shifts. A conversation that suddenly opens a door, a message that arrives unexpectedly, an approval that seemed impossible now comes with ease. These are not coincidences, these are manifestations. When a spiritual check is cashed, the physical evidence follows. I remember a season when I felt a deep internal release long before anything changed outwardly. Weeks later, opportunities aligned so precisely that it felt orchestrated. Looking back, the inner peace came first. The provision followed. That pattern matters, but I must warn you with love and clarity. When settlement is released, attention follows. And attention attracts thieves. Not always people, sometimes patterns. Distractions that seem harmless. Arguments that seem justified. Invitations that pull you back into emotional chaos. The enemy cannot cancel what heaven has approved, but he can attempt to drain your peace if you let him. That is why guarding your atmosphere is not optional right now. It is essential. Do not engage in low-level battles. Do not explain yourself to people who no longer have jurisdiction in your life. You are operating from a different spiritual tax bracket now. Anointed One, this is where maturity becomes protection. You are entering a season of establishment, not excitement. Establishment is quieter than breakthrough, but far more powerful. God is not just blessing you for a moment. He is setting you up for longevity. Foundations are being laid that will support not only you, but those who come after you. I have learned that when God shifts someone into establishment, he also shifts their circle. Not everyone understands legal spiritual protocols. Not everyone knows how to live after the war ends. That's why community matters now more than ever. There is a remnant being gathered, people who understand agreement, alignment, and stewardship. People who don't just shout during battle, but know how to stand steady during blessing. If you feel drawn to stay connected, it's not about a channel or a platform. It's about positioning yourself among those who recognize what season this is. When you comment your city, you are not just leaving a mark. You are declaring location. Heaven works with clarity. Provision has pathways. Settlement has direction. Now I want to bring you into a moment of vision, not imagination, but alignment. Close your eyes if you can, or simply still your thoughts. Picture a hand extending toward you from heaven. It is calm. It is deliberate. In that hand is a check, and your name is written clearly. No confusion, no fine print. The amount is sufficient not just to cover what was lost, but to establish what is coming. The memo line reads, "Paid in full." This is not emotional language. This is legal language, and the signature is not yours to earn, it is already signed. This is where many struggle internally. Worthiness tries to speak, guilt tries to argue. Old narratives resurface and say, "You should have done more, you should have known better." Silence those voices. Settlement is not based on perfection, it is based on representation. You are represented by Jesus Christ, and the case was won on your behalf. You receive not because you were flawless, but because the advocate was faithful. This is why posture matters. Stop begging, start thanking. Gratitude is endorsement. As you shift into this receiving posture, something else begins to happen. Identity recalibrates. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to survive. You begin to see yourself as someone entrusted. That shift changes how you speak, how you decide, how you move. Poverty is not just lack of money, it is a mindset of delay and scarcity. That mindset has no authority here. Infirmity, anxiety, and unrest do not have jurisdiction in a settled case. Peace becomes your portion, not as a feeling, but as a legal right. Allow yourself to breathe. Feel the release in your body, the heaviness lifting, the constant pressure easing. That is not imagination, that is alignment. And as you remain here present and attentive, the transfer continues to complete its work. Do not rush away from this moment. Stay. Let it finish what it came to do. There is something deeply important you must recognize in this season, chosen one. When heaven settles a case, it does not return you to who you were before the trial began. It establishes you as someone new. The version of you that went into the courtroom is not the version that walks out. That is why some familiar things may feel uncomfortable now. Old habits, old conversations, old ways of thinking might suddenly feel out of place. This is not confusion, this is recalibration. Settlement changes identity. I remember a moment in my own journey when the pressure finally lifted, and instead of relief, I felt disoriented. The fight was over, but my nervous system didn't know how to live without it yet. I had trained myself to expect resistance, to brace for loss, to stay alert for the next hit. And God gently showed me that I could no longer live like someone on trial when the verdict had already been rendered. That same invitation is being extended to you now. You are not waiting for permission anymore. You are walking with authority. Chosen one authority does not announce itself loudly. It moves quietly and decisively. You may notice that you no longer feel the need to explain your decisions. You are less reactive, less defensive. Situations that once drained you emotionally now feel smaller, less significant. This is because settlement doesn't just change circumstances, it changes scale. What once felt overwhelming now fits within you. That is a sign of establishment. This is also why discernment sharpens in this season. You begin to sense what aligns and what doesn't almost immediately. Invitations come, but you can feel whether they carry peace or pressure. Opportunities arise, but your spirit weighs them before your mind gets excited. Trust that. Settlement requires stewardship. Not everything that is available is appropriate. Not everything that is good is assigned. God is not just increasing what comes to you. He is refining what you allow access to you. Anointed One, understand this clearly. After a legal victory, the enemy shifts strategy. He no longer accuses you of guilt. He tries to rush you into mismanagement. He tries to tempt you into spending emotional, relational, or financial resources prematurely. He whispers urgency. Act now. Decide quickly. Don't miss this. But heaven does not operate in panic. What God releases does not expire overnight. You do not have to chase what has already been awarded. This is where patience becomes power. Stillness becomes strategy. I've watched people sabotage divine provision simply because they moved too fast, trying to prove the breakthrough was real. You don't need to prove anything. The settlement stands on its own. Let peace guide your pace. Let clarity govern your choices. This is how you protect what has been entrusted to you. You may also notice shifts in relationships. Some people celebrate with you, others grow distant. Some misunderstand your quietness. Let them. Settlement seasons are not loud seasons. They are rooted seasons. God is anchoring you so that what comes next has something solid to stand on. You are not being isolated. You are being positioned. There is a difference. Chosen one, there is also a sacred responsibility attached to what you are receiving. Not obligation responsibility. Wealth in the kingdom is not just financial. It is influence, capacity, reach, and stability. God settles people he can trust to remain aligned. That trust is built through obedience in obscurity. You passed tests you didn't even know were tests. When you chose integrity over shortcuts. When you stayed kind while misunderstood. When you kept praying while nothing seemed to move. Those moments qualified you for what is happening now. I want you to reflect for a moment on how far you've come. Not just externally, but internally. You survived seasons that would have hardened you, but you stayed soft. You walked through loss without becoming bitter. You endured delay without losing faith. That matters. Heaven values character more than speed. And because of that, what is being released to you is meant to last. As settlement settles in your language begins to change, you stop saying if and start saying when. You stop asking why me and begin to understand why now. The future no longer feels threatening, it feels open. Possibility replaces fear. Vision replaces survival. This is not arrogance, this is alignment. Let me speak directly to the part of you that still feels cautious, that is waiting for the other shoe to drop. That vigilance kept you alive during the battle, but it is not required here. You are safe to rest. You are safe to plan. You are safe to believe again. Rest is not weakness. It is a declaration that you trust the verdict. There will be moments when memories of the trial resurface. Old disappointments may try to remind you of who you used to be. When that happens, gently remind yourself that the case is closed. You do not relive closed cases. You build from settled ground. Each time you choose peace over panic, you reinforce the new foundation God is laying. Chosen one. This is also a season to listen more than you speak. God often gives strategy quietly after victory. Pay attention to nudges, to subtle instructions, to ideas that come without force. Those are not random thoughts. They are blueprints. Settlement clears the noise so you can hear direction more clearly. Write things down. Protect your focus. Honor the stillness. And as you continue to stay present here, staying with this word, allowing it to settle fully, know that you are not just receiving something for yourself. You are becoming a reference point for others. Your life will quietly testify that God restores, that He repays, that He settles His people thoroughly. You do not need to announce it. Fruit speaks. So breathe again. Let gratitude rise naturally, not forced, not performative. Gratitude seals what faith receives. The courtroom is behind you. The counting room is not a place of greed, but of order. Things are being arranged. Accounts are being balanced. Timelines are aligning. And you are exactly where you need to be for this moment to complete its work in you. There is a moment after every great legal decision where reality begins to reorganize itself around the ruling. It doesn't happen all at once, and it doesn't always look dramatic, but it is thorough. Chosen one, that is where you are now. Heaven has already spoken, the verdict has already been issued, and now your life is being quietly rearranged to match what has been decided in the unseen. This is why certain things are falling into place without effort, while other things are being removed without explanation. Settlement brings order. One of the first things that changes is your internal sense of urgency. You may notice that you are no longer rushing the way you used to. You're less frantic, less desperate to prove progress. That doesn't mean you've lost motivation. It means you've gained assurance. When you know something is legally yours, you don't chase it. You prepare for it. That subtle shift is a sign that you're moving from survival into stewardship. Chosen one stewardship requires clarity, and clarity often comes through subtraction before addition. God is not punishing you by closing certain doors. He is protecting the settlement. Some connections cannot travel with you into this next season because they are still wired to the version of you that was on trial. Those relationships thrived on your availability, your explanations, your emotional labor. But now that the case is closed, access changes. This is not rejection. This is jurisdiction. I remember having to let go of conversations that kept reopening old wounds under the guise of processing. God showed me that repeatedly revisiting the trial kept my spirit anchored to a season that had already ended. Closure is not denial. It is agreement with heaven. You are allowed to move forward without dragging every memory with you. You are allowed to build without reliving every loss. Anointed One. This is also where discipline takes on a new meaning. Not discipline as punishment, but discipline as alignment. Your time, your energy, your focus become more valuable now because they are no longer spent fighting. They are invested in building. Be intentional with what you consume, what you engage, what you allow to shape your thinking. Peace is fragile in its early stages, not because it is weak, but because it is new. Guard it gently. You may also notice that your prayers begin to change. They become less about rescue and more about wisdom, less about get me out, and more about show me how to steward what you've given. That is the language of someone who understands settlement. God responds to that posture quickly because it aligns with His purpose. He settles you so He can establish you. There is another layer to this season that often surprises people. When the pressure lifts, emotions you suppressed during the battle may surface. Grief, fatigue, even anger that you didn't have space to feel before. Do not interpret that as regression. Healing often begins after safety is established. Give yourself permission to rest, to process, to recover. You were strong for a long time. Now you are allowed to be whole. Chosen. One wholeness attracts clarity, and clarity attracts opportunity. Not chaotic opportunity, but aligned opportunity. Doors that open without forcing, invitations that come with peace instead of pressure. Resources that arrive with structure instead of confusion. That is how you know it's God. He does not give blessings that require you to abandon your alignment to maintain them. As things begin to stabilize, you may feel a growing sense of responsibility toward others. Not obligation, but compassion. You'll notice that your testimony carries weight even when you don't share details. People feel steadier around you. Your presence calms rather than competes. That is influence, and it is a form of wealth. God entrusts influence to those who have been refined by fire and settled by grace. Be mindful, though, not to overextend yourself in this season. Helping does not mean rescuing. Supporting does not mean sacrificing your peace. You are not meant to replace God in anyone else's story. Stay in your lane. Steward your assignment. Let your life speak louder than your explanations. Chosen One. There will also be moments where doubt tries to revisit you, especially when external confirmation seems delayed. Remember, this paperwork takes time, but the ruling is final. Just because everything hasn't manifested yet doesn't mean it isn't moving. Some of the most significant shifts happen quietly. Trust the process without micromanaging it. I want to ground this in something practical. Begin to think long-term again, not from fear, but from faith. Make plans that assume stability. Envision a future that isn't constantly interrupted by crisis. That mental shift is part of the settlement taking root. You're no longer planning around survival, you're planning around purpose. And as you do, you'll notice your identity continuing to settle. You stop introducing yourself by what you've survived. You stop defining yourself by what went wrong. You become present, anchored, confident without being loud. That is establishment. That is maturity. That is the fruit of a settled case. Take moments throughout your day to acknowledge what has changed, even subtly. Gratitude doesn't need an audience. It just needs sincerity. Thank God for the quiet. Thank Him for the clarity. Thank Him for the space to breathe again. Each acknowledgement reinforces alignment. Chosen one. Nothing about this season is accidental. The timing, the sequence, the unfolding, it is all intentional. You were not rushed into this. You were prepared for it. And as the settlement continues to express itself in tangible ways, remember that you are not behind. You are not late. You are right on time, walking out what heaven has already decided in your favor. There comes a point in this season where you begin to recognize that what God settled externally is now being mirrored internally. Your thoughts slow down, your reactions soften, your expectations mature. Chosen one. This is not you losing intensity or hunger. This is you stepping into coherence. When the inner world aligns with the verdict of heaven, power becomes sustainable. You no longer burn energy proving yourself. You conserve it to build what lasts. I want to speak to something subtle but crucial. After long battles, many people unconsciously attach their identity to endurance. Struggle becomes familiar. Pressure becomes normal. And when settlement arrives, the absence of conflict can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. If you felt moments of restlessness or a strange urge to do something just to feel productive, pause. That impulse is residue from survival mode. You are learning how to live without armor. That takes time. Be patient with yourself. Anointed one. This is where wisdom begins to lead instead of adrenaline. Decisions are no longer made from urgency, but from alignment. You start asking better questions. Does this add peace? Does this fit where God is taking me? Does this honor the season I'm in? Those questions are evidence of growth. They protect the settlement from being diluted by distraction. There is also an invitation here to forgive in a deeper way, not because those who hurt you deserve it, but because you no longer need to carry the emotional receipts into your future. Forgiveness in a settlement season is not weakness. It is closure. It is you agreeing that what was owed has been paid not by them, but by God's justice. That agreement frees your energy for construction rather than maintenance of old wounds. You may notice that some old dreams resurface now, but they feel different. They are quieter, more refined, less desperate. Dreams that once felt risky now feel possible. That is because hope is no longer fighting against fear. It is partnering with peace. This is how vision becomes executable. Settlement restores not just what you lost, but your capacity to imagine again. Chosen one, you are also being taught restraint in this season. Not everything needs to be shared. Not every win needs an audience. Some blessings mature best in privacy. I've learned that God often grows things in silence, so they are strong enough to withstand exposure later. Protect what is forming. Let it root deeply before you present it widely. This is also a season where habits matter more than moments. Small, consistent choices begin to shape your future in powerful ways. How you start your mornings, how you end your days, how you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. These rhythms create an environment where settlement can expand. Wealth in any form flows toward order. God is establishing order in you, so what comes next has somewhere to land. Be mindful of comparison. It has no place here. Your timeline has been uniquely shaped by what you endured and what God is restoring. Looking sideways will only distort your sense of progress. Stay anchored in your lane. Measure growth by peace, not pace. By clarity, not speed. You may also experience a renewed sensitivity to what drains you. Certain conversations, environments, or commitments that once felt manageable now feel heavy. That's discernment increasing. Your spirit is learning what it costs to stay aligned, and it is choosing preservation over politeness. You are allowed to say no without explaining yourself. You are allowed to choose rest without guilt. Those permissions are part of the settlement. Anointed One. There is a quiet confidence forming in you now. Not arrogance, not bravado, but steadiness. You trust your instincts more. You second-guess less. You don't need constant affirmation. That confidence comes from knowing the verdict. When you know heaven has ruled, opinions lose their grip. Let me ground this in something practical again. Begin organizing your life around longevity. Think systems, not just outcomes. Structure your finances, your schedule, your commitments in ways that support sustainability. God is not just blessing you to survive the next season. He is establishing you for years to come. That requires intention. There will be moments when you look back and realize how much has changed without fanfare. You'll notice that things that once overwhelmed you no longer do. You'll handle situations with grace that once triggered fear. That is growth you cannot fake. That is the fruit of a settled spirit. Chosen one, you are not behind. You are not catching up. You are right where you need to be, learning how to live from a place of provision instead of pursuit. Allow yourself to enjoy the process. Joy is not a distraction from destiny. It is fuel for it. As this season continues to unfold, remain attentive, not anxious, expectant, not demanding, open, not rushed. The settlement is not just something that happened to you, it is something that is still happening in you. And as you continue to agree with it, steward it, and protect it, you will find that what God has settled will continue to expand in ways that feel both surprising and deeply right. There is a quiet confirmation that begins to surface when a season like this reaches maturity. It doesn't shout, it doesn't rush, it settles. Chosen one. You may notice that certainty now replaces the constant need for reassurance. You no longer ask every step if you're doing the right thing. You sense it. You move with a steadiness that wasn't available to you before. This is not because life became easy, but because alignment became clear. One of the final marks of a settled season is that fear loses its ability to narrate your future. It may still attempt to visit, but it no longer has authority. You recognize its voice quickly, and you don't negotiate with it. You've learned that fear thrives on unanswered questions, but settlement answers the most important one. Is this secure? And the answer is yes. Heaven does not reverse its verdicts. Anointed one. This is also where discernment deepens into wisdom. Discernment helps you recognize what is wrong. Wisdom teaches you what to do next. You begin to see patterns rather than isolated moments. You anticipate outcomes instead of reacting to events. This is a gift. It allows you to navigate complexity without being overwhelmed. It keeps you from repeating cycles that once drained you. You are no longer learning lessons the hard way. You are applying them the wise way. You may feel drawn now to simplify, to clear space, to remove clutter from your environment and your calendar. That is not boredom, that is preparation. Simplicity creates margin, and margin allows you to hear God clearly. In crowded seasons, guidance often feels distant. In settled seasons, it feels near and accessible. Guard that clarity. It will guide you through decisions that matter. Chosen one. There is also an emotional honesty that becomes possible now. You no longer have to pretend you're fine when you're tired. You no longer suppress grief to appear strong. Strength in this season looks like truth, and truth creates stability. You can acknowledge what hurt without reopening the wound. You can remember without reliving. That is healing taking its rightful place. There is something else that shifts here: your relationship with time. You stop racing it. You stop resenting it. You begin to respect it. You understand that not everything must happen immediately to be meaningful. Some things grow best when allowed to mature. You trust the process because you've seen what patience produced in you. This trust allows you to enjoy the present without constantly scanning for the next crisis. Anointed One stewardship now extends beyond what you have to who you are becoming. You steward your attention. You steward your emotional energy. You steward your peace. You recognize that peace is not passive. It is active protection. You choose it deliberately. You walk away from unnecessary conflict. You don't entertain conversations that pull you back into old narratives. You are not cold. You are focused. As settlement fully integrates into your life, your confidence becomes quieter and stronger. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You don't chase validation. You know who you are because heaven affirmed it. This inner assurance changes how you lead, how you serve, how you love. You become dependable, not dramatic, grounded, not reactive. That reliability attracts trust. Chosen one, you may also feel a renewed sense of responsibility toward your own growth. Not pressure, but ownership. You recognize that what God has entrusted to you deserves care. You invest in learning. You refine skills. You build systems. These actions are not driven by fear of loss, but by respect for what you've been given. You are honoring the settlement by expanding your capacity to steward it well. There may be moments when you feel nostalgia for the intensity of the battle. That's normal. Intensity can feel meaningful, but meaning does not come from struggle alone. It comes from purpose, and purpose is now unfolding in ways that are steady, sustainable, and real. You are not losing passion. You are gaining direction. Let me speak to your heart plainly here. You are allowed to enjoy what God has given you. Enjoyment is not selfish. It is acknowledgement. It says, I receive this fully. Many people limit their joy out of fear it will be taken away. But joy does not provoke loss. Gratitude invites increase. Allow yourself to smile without waiting for permission. Allow yourself to rest without apology. Chosen one. You are also becoming an example not through perfection, but through consistency. People will notice how you handle pressure now, how you speak when challenged, how you remain calm when things don't go exactly as planned. That consistency will open doors you don't even knock on. Favor often follows stability. As you move forward, continue to listen, continue to align, continue to steward. Do not underestimate the power of small, faithful actions taken from a settled heart. Those actions compound. They build momentum. They create legacy. You are not just moving into a better season. You are establishing a better foundation. Take moments to reflect on the journey that brought you here. Honor the strength it took to endure. Honor the faith that kept you going. Then release the weight of it. You don't need to carry the proof anymore. The verdict stands. And as you step into the days ahead, carry this awareness with you: what God has settled in your life is not fragile. It is anchored. It does not depend on constant effort to survive. It is supported by divine order. Walk forward with that assurance. Let it shape your choices. Let it guide your pace. Let it inform your peace. Chosen one. This is what it looks like when heaven finishes a work. Not chaos, not exhaustion, but clarity, stability, and quiet confidence. Remain here, remain aligned, and allow what has been settled to continue unfolding in ways that feel both grounded and extraordinary, because this is what happens when the verdict of heaven becomes the reality of your life. Chosen one. Pause here for a moment and let this truth settle into your spirit. What you have heard is not just a message, it is a confirmation. Heaven has already moved. The verdict has been issued. The settlement is in motion. You are standing in your exact Kairos moment, the appointed time where striving ends and divine fulfillment begins. Anointed one, may peace guard your heart and clarity guide your steps as you move forward from this place. What God has released over your life will not return empty. Expect alignment where there was confusion, provision where there was pressure, and restoration where there was loss. The same God who settled the case is faithful to complete the work. Remain faithful, stay aligned, protect your peace. Walk with gratitude, not for what you are still waiting to see, but for what has already been decided in heaven. Let your posture be trust, and let your language be thanksgiving. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are right on time. If your spirit agrees with this word, seal it gently. Comment 777 and the city you're watching from as a sign of alignment. If you feel led, remain connected here, stay in this flow, and carry this anointing with you into the days ahead. Go now in confidence. Go now in peace. The transfer has begun, and heaven will finish what it started in you.